Next, we'll go to Peter Jaworski, and the last time I saw Peter talk about an issue like this, it was in the context, as a fellow Canadian, in the context of Canada, which outlaws, I have this right, Canada does not allow compensation for blood, correct?
Correct.
And you are, what I love about Peter is his passion for this and related issues, and I think you will see it right now.
Okay, well, thanks, Sam. I love you too. Go Canada. I prepared comments. I'm going to read them. So recently, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi said the following. Right? We have a little time to save lives. What more important thing does any one of us have to do than to stay here and pass a law to save lives? Somebody said to you, you could save 90 lives by passing a bill today. Wouldn't you do that? Or why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? Now here we have an opportunity to save much more than 90 lives. We have the opportunity to save hundreds, if not thousands of lives. All that the Department of Health and Human Services has to do is nothing. The question is, why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they just do nothing? Which I think they should do, right? They should do nothing. There is one company, Hemeos, that stands ready to help save more than 90 lives. All they require is the continued legal permission to operate. So why would HHS not permit companies like Hemeos to operate? So I looked at the department's arguments in favor of passing a new rule that would prohibit compensation for hematopoietic stem cells. We'll call them HSCs from here. I looked at the arguments that they provided, and I also had a look at the public submissions to the Department of Health and Human Services when they opened this particular question up for public comment. Now, I should mention that there were 527 public submissions to that website. And I went ahead and I categorized all of the submissions according to whether or not they were in favor of the new rule that would prohibit compensation or opposed to it. Of 527 public submissions, exactly 20 were in favor of the new rule. 507 submissions were there in opposition to the new rule. I think that's significant. Okay. The first and most frequent response has to do with wrongful exploitation. The worry is that offering payment for bone marrow donations will unduly incentivize at-risk populations to make a health-related decision that may not be in their own best long-term health interest. Now, there's no question that wrongful exploitation is a legitimate worry. If it were true that compensating bone marrow donors were wrongfully exploitative, that would be a significant objection. However, the compensatory model would not be wrongfully exploitative. Unlike aspiration, apheresis is a non-invasive procedure. While there are risks, the procedure is not dangerous. In most cases, recovery, which is generally minimal or non-debilitating, lasts 1 week. 7 days is the median, right? In addition, HSCs quickly regenerate. Donors do not permanently lose a part of themselves. Given that the burdens here are not very significant, they provide no grounds for concern about wrongful exploitation. There is also no evidence that compensation for bone marrow donations would be low, or that only poor or desperate people would be willing to donate for compensation. For example, Hemeos is offering $2,000 per completed donation. That is a sum that is sufficient to persuade middle and upper income individuals to donate, just as they now donate eggs or sperm for compensation. Finally, donors would not be compensated on the day that they sign up to be placed on the registry. Instead, they are paid only after a match is found and they complete the donation, which can take a long time, possibly years. Worries about wrongful exploitation are about people making desperate decisions in moments of desperation. A waiting period of months or possibly years gives people an opportunity to reconsider. Now, the second objection to the compensatory model is that it would promote the view that human beings, their bodies, or subparts thereof are appropriately viewed or thought of as commodities. Now, we should mark a distinction between paying for something and thinking of that thing as a mere commodity. Those are two different things, right? It is trivially true that anything that is paid for or compensated is a commodity, but this is ethically irrelevant. What is ethically relevant is that the compensatory model would promote the view that bone marrow is a mere commodity, right? Meriting no more ethical regard than other mere commodities such as cars or clothing or widgets. However, there is no evidence that the compensatory model would promote this view. So, for example, there is no evidence that compensation for blood or blood plasma donations, nor for sperm or egg donations, has promoted the view that people or their blood or their sperm or their eggs are mere commodities. Now, it turns out we also compensate presidents, and since we're here, I included senators on this list, and congresspersons, and people who are staff members for congresspeople and for senators. We compensate members of the military, police officers, actors, artists, and so on. Mario and I are professors, and we get paid to be professors. We get paid through students who pay tuition for their education. But there is simply no evidence that a paycheck for our labor promotes the view that we are mere commodities, nor that the services we provide, protection, education, artistic expression, public representation, and so on, are regarded by people who pay for it as mere commodities. There is simply no evidence that a compensatory model would promote the view that donors or their bone marrow are mere commodities. Now, the third and final and also frequently cited objection to compensating donors for bone marrow donations is that it would remove an opportunity for altruism. Of course, altruism is desirable. Of course, we should be careful to preserve and promote altruistic and benevolent motives and actions. But this is simply an unpersuasive argument in this case. The compensatory model leaves open the possibility for donors to reject the compensation. It also leaves open the possibility for a parallel non-compensatory model, as we have for blood donors, for example, right? There are blood drives that are uncompensated, while in other cases, blood donors are offered compensation. Both operate successfully side by side. It is also true that compensation and altruism are not mutually exclusive. In many cases, people who are compensated are motivated either simultaneously or primarily by altruistic impulses. This is true of many teachers. I'm just going to insist that it's true of me and my profession. I work at a business school, and maybe compensation plays a big role in why I work there rather than in a philosophy department. But for sure, I work and do what I do not just because I'm paid for it, but also because I love to teach and because I value education as a thing that is worth more than merely the sum of money that you pay for it. Mario is an economist. I won't speak for him, but I'm assuming there's at least a little bit of altruism motivating him as well. Okay. This is true of many teachers, of many doctors and nurses, of members of the military, and so on. Blood donors who are compensated are often simultaneously moved by altruistic motives. And there is no reason to think that compensation for bone marrow donations would be completely or even significantly crowd out altruism. The evidence is just not there. Now, none of the three most frequently cited objections to the compensatory model withstand ethical scrutiny. None of them do. And this is not my view alone, right? 39 professional ethicists from across the political spectrum signed on to a public open letter addressed to Shelley Grant at the Department of Health and Human Services, presenting the arguments that I have offered, right? They include well-known and well-regarded ethicists like Peter Singer. Peter Singer he's a famous guy. At least in my field, he's a big deal. Yeah. He's a big deal. Gerald Dworkin, right, and David Schmitz. The letter is hosted at donationethics.com if you want to take a look at all of the people who signed on. Now, in that letter, we also argued that given the ethical importance of avoiding preventable death, the proposed rule by the Department of Health and Human Services, in our view, is itself unethical. So the new rule is unethical because it stands in the way of people who want to save lives. And obviously, saving lives is morally significant, right? When people stand ready, willing, and able to save lives, we need very good reasons to prevent them. In this case, we simply do not have sufficient reason to prevent them. Hemeos and companies like Hemeos would like to save lives. Because we do not have sufficient reason to prevent them, the proposed new rule is not merely a bad idea, it is morally wrong. Passing this new rule would be unethical. What is being proposed is morally wrong. We have the opportunity to save more than 90 lives every single year. Why wouldn't we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I